Good afternoon. I hope that you're all doing well and staying safe out there. Welcome to the introduction to one of our most comprehensive programs to date, the Trauma-Informed and Healing-Centered Practice Training Program. My name is Courtney Cintron, Ingenuity's Partner Engagement Specialist.
And I'm Nicole Upton, Ingenuity's Director of Partnerships and Professional Learning. It's great to see all of you today.
We really appreciate all of the hard work that you're doing during these times, and we're eager to present this program to you today and for you to meet some of our amazing collaborators in this work right now. But before we jump into our agenda for the day, we want to take a moment to see who's joining us today, and we're going to launch a couple of polls here to get a sense of what your roles are and artistic disciplines as well. So we'll just give a quick minute for that.
We need music, Courtney.
I know. That's what I was just thinking.
This who's in the room portion.
Do, 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 do.
Who's in the room? Who's in the room?
We can commission something.
We've got about 70% of you who voted. And
okay. Yeah, it looks like we have a pretty good representation across discipline. Theater is showing out. And then, yeah, roles, we have some CPS teachers, we have executive and artistic directors, program managers, teaching artists. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you. Okay.
Okay, so now that we know who is here in the room with us today, we're just going to briefly outline what we've got planned for you today. We're going to start off by providing you with an overview of the program itself and kind of telling you the story of how it was developed, which is pretty exciting. Courtney and I certainly have had a really fun couple of months here putting this together. And then you'll have the opportunity to hear directly from each one of our partner collaborators in this series about the work that they do and the insights that they are going to bring into this program. It's really awesome. And finally, you'll have the opportunity to ask any questions that you have about the program or talk to the collaborators about their work or what they're going to be doing with us on this project. And then we'll wrap it up and head back out to the world.
Thanks, Nicole. Okay, so to start, like Nicole said, we're going to give you a brief overview of the program and talk a little bit about how it all came together. But I'm going to drop a link in the chat right now to the webpage for the program, and that will just help you kind of follow along and yeah, reference anything that we're discussing. So the Trauma-Informed and Healing-Centered Training Program for Arts Partners is going to bring together a team of trauma-informed organizations and practitioners with the aim of providing arts partners with sector-wide assistance in capacity building and understanding, implementing, and advancing trauma-informed care and healing-centered principles and competencies into organizational and programmatic practice. So the program is going to be divided into two parts. Part one of the program will build a trauma-informed care and healing-centered knowledge base through a series of 13 trainings facilitated by the consortium of organizations, including Chicago Growth Mindset, Illinois Collaboration on Youth, and Illinois ACEs Response Collaborative. So the first 5 trainings, so this is on the next 101 slide here, will provide essential topics, many of which speak to the current moment, and also provide a launch pad to get into some of the more specific and nuanced topics. So these are sessions that are available for registration now and will be beginning on December 1st. So you can see kind of a little sneak peek of some of the topics there: trauma and trauma-informed care 101, COVID-19 and trauma, impact of trauma on youth, and culture and trauma. So following these initial 101 session, the program will divide into 2 learning tracks. One to meet the specific learning needs of organizations, and then the other to meet the learning needs of teaching artists and individual arts educators. So for the organizational track, on the next one over, Here we go. Okay, perfect. The organizational sessions will focus on topics that will prepare organizations to not only support teaching artists and program delivery, but that will also focus on specific organizational strategies pertaining to staff development, policies and procedures, administrative practices, and organizational infrastructure that will help develop a trauma-informed culture for all staff. So really just setting a precedence, and this is not only the work of teaching artists or folks on the ground, but it really requires that we're all in this work together. And
Courtney, can I just jump in there
please,
too?
yes.
This organizational track is a wonderful opportunity for all of those folks that you work with within your organizations. We're encouraging your board members, your executive staff, even those that work outside of arts education directly within your organizations to join this organizational track. This information will be really applicable no matter what you're doing in order to make sure that all of our organizations and the work that we are doing is trauma informed.
Thanks, Nicole. And then the instructional sessions will address trauma and its impact on youth, as well as on those in caring professions, so teachers themselves. And will also provide a focus on restorative practices, strategies for prevention and wellness, and integrating SEL into instruction. And these sessions, like Nicole was saying, are universally applicable no matter what your role in the arts space is, whether you're a funder, teaching artist, executive, director, board member, feel free to join us. Don't hesitate at all. These are applicable sessions. So registration for the organizational and the instructional sessions will be available in late December, early January. And you don't need to attend a certain number of sessions. So you can attend 1, 4, 5, or all of them. It's really up to you, and you can craft it however you'd like and to meet your needs and your schedule. And the part 1 session will run from December through the end of February. So it'll be that block of time. But be sure to check out our website periodically for up-to-date information. So that's that link that I dropped in the chat for you. And we'll also make an announcement in our January newsletter and update everyone on what sessions are taking place. Okay, and then part 2 of the program. So that's a lot, 13 trainings in a few months, this 3 organizations coming together. It seems like lots of parts, but then we have this entirely different section. So part 2 of the program is going to start in March and will include a series of collective impact sessions across artistic discipline, facilitated by members of the Institute for Therapy Through the Arts, or ITA. So to begin, ITA will provide an introductory session on trauma-informed and healing-centered practice through the arts that will prepare you to get in the mindset of thinking about this work through your specific discipline. And then we'll launch into the Collective Impact series and host 2 working sessions for each artistic discipline, so dance, music, theater and lit, and visual art, media art. And these sessions will be facilitated by ITA, and participants will work collectively to knowledge share and co-source curricular and pedagogical examples of what trauma-informed and healing-centered principles look like specifically through the different arts disciplines, as I was saying. And all of these sessions that I just talked about in part 1 and part 2, these are all entirely free and customizable to your needs. So then the program is going to culminate in a final toolkit guidebook that will include a comprehensive assessment mapped to all of the trainings from that part 1 and part 2, and then a number of helpful resources, including recorded video trainings of all of those sessions that took place. So a really comprehensive output there.
Woo!
Yeah.
Okay, everybody take a breath. That's the program. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
But you may ask yourself, how the heck did all of this come together? And we want to share a little bit about that story with you because we think it's important context for understanding the program and the overall vision and the kind of ambition of this work. So this program, really, the genesis of this program really came out of the Arts Ed Response Collective, which many of you, I think, participated in. Back when the pandemic kind of began back in March, Ingenuity began having conversations across the sector with arts educators, with teachers, with funders, with board members, with CPS students about the pandemic, to really kind of get a better understanding of the challenges that they were facing, and to kind of proactively collect that and then figure out how we might mitigate those challenges as a sector to make sure that any arts education that we have already built was not lost in this really challenging time. And I think Courtney just dropped a link into the chat for you if you're interested and you haven't yet seen the full report that we published in late August. So what emerged from that process was a really clear need to understand the ways in which arts can be used as a tool for recovery from healing from this crisis. And we increasingly heard, and became even more pressing, was around the ongoing violence against Black communities and the disparities around the virus, and how that really came to the forefront through this art process. There was also a really clearly stated need for authentic learning practices that would truly support professionals, educators, and arts educators in expanding your practice to meet this really weird and challenging time that we're all living in. So as an immediate response, Ingenuity initially started off with kind of 3 shorter trainings with one of our partners here on the line, the Illinois ACEs Response Collaborative. And Courtney's going to drop a link into the chat with the link that you can access those videos. But those trainings provided a really important introduction and foundation to trauma-informed principles and practices. And we got a lot of really great feedback from those trainings, from partners especially. We wanted to then build off of both the Arts Ed Collective response report, but also those kind of initial 3 trainings, to build a program that was more robust and a little bit more dynamic. We also really were committed to sourcing a diverse group of facilitators with various approaches to the topic of trauma, various experience and perspectives to meet the needs of our very, very diverse arts partner group. So that's a little bit of context. Court, how did we do the next part of this?
So we did
get these folks.
Well, yes, we did some additional research on organizations doing this kind of work, and Madison from the Illinois ACEs Response Collaborative was also really helpful in providing us with some resources on folks that we might want to reach out to. And then we extended an invitation to Chicago Growth Mindset, Illinois ACEs Response Collaborative, who we had already previously worked with, and Illinois Collaboration on Youth, to come to the table to discuss what a collaboration would look like and how we might work together to create something really comprehensive, a training program for the arts educator sector, and help build a knowledge base to begin to even understand how we can implement these practices into programmatic and organizational practice. So that there was a lot set out in front of us, and we started to just map out all of the trainings that they already facilitated and how we could kind of make them more tailored to the communities that we serve.
We are also, at Ingenuity, everything that we do is really about deepening the conversation and making it as applicable to your work as possible. And we have always identified as a collective impact organization, an organization who brings various stakeholders to the table to build that shared knowledge and understanding, to really build consensus around topics, while also working to decenter ourselves as the expert. We're certainly not the expert. We know that you are on the ground most of the time doing this work, and your input and direct experience has to be part of this process, is really integral to the process, and collectively exploring what trauma-informed and healing-centered practice actually looks like through your arts disciplines. I know many of you out there, and I've heard it very anecdotally, and even when I was an arts partner working with some students, I have a lot of stories about how trauma presented in ways that were quite surprising, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle those situations, and it's likely that you've encountered something like that in your own work and experience as well. So it's important to bring your experiences to the table, share what you've seen and experienced, share with each other, and together build some consensus and understanding. So as we thought about that, we knew that Chicago Growth Mindset and the Illinois Collaboration on Youth and the ACEs Response Collaborative brought such wonderful and important, valuable foundational information to the topics of trauma and healing. But we were also thinking about what and how to kind of transfer that basic information to this kind of foundational information to the lens of the arts disciplines themselves. And so we were very lucky and fortunate to get connected with the Institute of Therapy through the Arts to discuss the possibility of them facilitating the arts-based piece of this work. And again, just as we explained, they were totally on board for it. They were very excited and have been doing this work in depth for many, many years already. And I know even some of our partners potentially on the line have already worked with this organization, and probably all 4 of the organizations. So with the Institute for Therapy through the Arts, we're going to help facilitate those conversations with you discipline by discipline to not only mind your real lived experiences and kind of share the knowledge that you already have with each other, but also to make sure that those unique voices are really brought to the table and integrated through the lens of experts that have credentials in this field. I mean, let's face it, none of us are, most of us, I should say, on the line here, are not mental health professionals, right? We need the help and the guidance, but that guidance does need to be grounded in what our real lived experience is. So we'll be working together with all of these organizations to kind of coordinate all of that learning that happens over the course of the year.
And now here we are. So this work, as we know, will require an ongoing commitment, but Nicole and I and the team are confident that this is the start that we need. So now, without further ado, we're going to...
Did you talk about the toolkit, Courtney?
Yes, I briefly mentioned it before, but just as a recap, so all of those programs that we mentioned are going to result in a final toolkit guidebook for trauma-informed practice in the arts. So the toolkit will also include an assessment, a self-assessment mapped to all of those initial knowledge-based trainings, as well as that collective impact work that is going to be done in part 2. And then it's going to include lots of different resources from those trainings, as well as recorded videos from those trainings. So it'd be a nice packaged product. But yes, so this work is going to, this is not just 1 year, we're imagining that next year we'll hopefully be able to do some additional trainings around the guidebook, around the toolkit. There are opportunities for coachings and individual trainings that we're hoping to do, and maybe even exploring what this work looks like on a national scale, perhaps. But we're just so thrilled and excited to introduce you to this team of collaborators that's working with us. They're super committed to this work, and we obviously couldn't do this without them or you. So I'm going to invite Madison and Bridget, if Bridget's maybe not here, actually just Madison from the Illinois ACEs Response Collaborative to start, as they're actually kicking off the program on December 1st. So they're going to tell you, or Madison's going to tell you a little bit about the work that ACEs does and what they're looking forward to about this work.
Like Courtney said, my name is Madison Hammett. I am the Senior Policy Analyst and Training Manager here at the Illinois ACEs Response Collaborative. And we are, as the name suggests, a multi-sector collaborative that is across the state of Illinois that is dedicated to not only catalyzing a cross-sector movement to get ACEs and trauma knowledge out there, but also to prevent, there we go. Now you can just read what I'm saying. To prevent that trauma and promote not only prevention and mitigation of trauma, but promote thriving across the lifespan, and to really place this knowledge at the forefront of an equity agenda in Illinois on multiple levels, not only, you know, at different organizations like the ones you work at, but also in our local policies and our statewide policies. And we do that through 3 buckets that you see here. So policy and advocacy, which is just like it sounds, but not only big P policy, so with our statewide legislatures, our mayor's office, or the city of Chicago, but also little P policy. How can we help organizations enhance their own knowledge around this and also integrate these ideas into their work with their clients or their students or the communities they serve, but also with each other as co-workers and communities themselves. We do that through capacity building. So that's trainings like the ones that you're gonna have with me, and also other work like toolkits and just building knowledge and helping folks, again, integrate this in their day-to-day lives. And then we do research, translation, and dissemination. So it's really important for us for this knowledge about trauma and adverse childhood experiences and all of the things that you're going to learn about through this program. It's really important for the collaborative for this not to just be the purview of mental health professionals or scientists or physicians and nurses. Certainly we want all of those people on board, but we also believe that this is knowledge that not only does everybody need to know, but it's something that everyone can contribute to, and something that, you know, from the very youngest of the students that you take care of all the way to grandparents or great-grandparents, everyone has something to contribute to and knowledge and knows how to prevent and mitigate trauma in their own lives and communities. And so it's really important for us to get this knowledge out there. And so we spend a lot of our time doing that as well, finding new ways to connect with different communities. And so it's one of the reasons we're really excited about this program in particular, because arts is a new community for us. And so we're really excited to get that going. And I want to touch on something that has to do with our name, but also something that I think is really important for this program in particular, but just also this knowledge generally. So our name is the Illinois Adverse Childhood Experiences Response Collaborative. It's a mouthful. But ACEs are, as you're going to learn, just a small piece of this puzzle when it comes to trauma and trauma-informed principles and trauma-informed care. And ACEs are just 10 experiences. Again, as you're going to hear so much about it in that intro training with me. But we at the collaborative really also believe that this is not just about the interpersonal or home-based experiences, but we know that people's lives and experiences are deeply impacted by their communities and then the systems and structures that form and create these communities and their experiences. And so there's a lot of tree images in trauma, branches and leaves, and this is just one of the ones we have here at the collaborative. And I always include this when we talk about it to show, you know, we're going to touch on all pieces of the tree and really talk about these deep systemic and historical issues. And that's really key to not only this program, but just trauma knowledge and trauma-informed knowledge generally. So I'm really looking forward to getting into those roots with y'all as well. But just wanted to put this out here at the beginning because of our name and acknowledge that this is all part of a broader tree of life, so to speak. And then finally, I really wanted to talk about why this is important for us at the collaborative, working with y'all, working in the arts, working in education. You know, we've already at the collaborative done trainings for social emotional learning specialists at CPS. We've also worked with the Skokie School District. So we know that education is a huge piece of this puzzle in creating a trauma-informed state. But we also know that we're missing pieces of that. And that's where y'all come in. That's where community members come in, your students, the parents, the folks that you serve. And so wanting to know from y'all throughout this process, what does it mean to be a trauma-informed state for you? How do you and your organization see yourselves as being a part of that? And, you know, one of our roles at the collaborative is we are co-leading a statewide working group to give the governor's office and statewide legislature advice on how to craft trauma-informed legislation. And so we want to know from you, what strategic priorities should we be emphasizing? What should we let them know when it comes to trauma and the arts? And how are y'all playing a role in preventing and mitigating trauma? And how do you envision healing in Illinois? How do the arts play a role in that? So how can this program and how can our relationship across the next months and years, what's that going to look like in addressing trauma and adversity, not only the communities you serve or your students, but also, again, your staff, you yourselves, and then our larger community as a state as a whole. So it's very hard to talk about yourself very quickly. So I know Courtney's going to be sharing a lot of contacts and information, so please feel free to reach out to me. And I'm really excited to get started, and you're going to be seeing my face at least a couple of times. So please feel free to reach out with any questions you have.
Excellent. Thank you, Madison, for that great overview. That was a wonderful start. We're going to transition back to our other deck really quickly. Here we go. And now we're going to bring up Nilsa Ruiz and Rosa Julia from Chicago Growth Mindset to talk to us a little bit about the work that they do as well, and what you can expect from the trainings that they're going to be offering through this program as well.
Thank you, Courtney and Nicole. Buenos dias, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Rosa Julia Garcia Rivera, and I am one of the co-owners of Chicago Growth Mindset.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Buenos dias. My name is Nilsa Ruiz, and I'm also the co-founder of Chicago Growth Mindset. Thank you for having us today.
We're excited to tell you a little bit about—
My goal is to really—
Go ahead, Nelson.
Please, go ahead.
No, I was just going to start by telling you a little bit about our organization, a little bit about what we do and the services that we'll be providing to this amazing group here today. CGM specializes in integrating wellness programs into a diverse workplace setting. Nilsa and I have a long history in the nonprofit world, and in any organization that really is a people organization, we understand that the happier and the more stable employees are, the bigger the impact in the communities that you're serving. And so we really work on bringing in those services to different workplace settings, from workshops that you all will be experiencing, from coaching. We also have additional comprehensive services that we'll talk to you a little bit about later in our little short presentation for individuals and families. Nilsa?
Thank you, Rosa. We also inspire confidence and build resilience so you can see true impact in your investment. Sort of what Courtney and Nicole mentioned is that collaboration, but also really understanding that we want to be able to provide you those resources, but also knowing that you know more about the community that you serve. You know more about what is going on with the work that you do. So our goal is to make this a conversation, but also giving you the tools to really practice those skill sets. Our vision is really making sure that we capture and achieve mental wellness with dignity and respect, and overall their emotional well-being, a healthy community. We're excited to be partnering with Ingenuity, knowing that this collaborative could become national, knowing that there's different partnerships, and really introducing you to the skills they already have, but really putting more portray on that. Rosa.
I think you're still up. I think we're gonna tell you a little bit more about ourselves and our experience.
Thank you. So a little bit about myself. I think it's important as we talk about some of this collaboration, getting to know you and the work you do, is that you also feel comfortable with your facilitators, comfortable to know that we are here a phone call and email away, but also having that connection that really guides us to the work that we do. As you know, I am the co-founder of Chicago Mindset. That's 10 years of experience, social service and advocacy. What this looks like is working with different partnerships and this common ground to really help the communities that we serve, and really building some of that resilience and the co-factors to really help some of that. We are, one of my own practitioners is just being a racial healing practitioner, where we talk to different partners all over the city and just really talk about equity and how to really impact some of the things that we do. My background is from Loyola University. My specialization was LDSS, which stands for Leadership Development and Social Services. As we know, mental health is such a big impact, but sometimes what we forget about is how our community is affecting those impacts. Our community is affecting some of those mental health So we try to view some of these things not only internally, but also in a macro lens where we could able to adapt some of that stuff. A little bit personal about me. I am married to a Spanish teacher. For those who are here who are working with CPS, I hear your struggle, and I want to say just thank you for all the work that you do, because I'm part of that and I see it. And I have a 1-year-old son who loves music. So the moment Courtney and Nicole was telling me about the arts and what this means, I automatically thought, how do I make sure that CGM becomes a blueprint to the future, becomes a blueprint to some of the things that we're trying to do here as a collaborative. This work means so much to all of us. We were here with Courtney and Nicole months ago, just talking about what this means and how to start and how to really become some of this. And what they really explain is just these are individuals who are so invested in the work that we do, so invested in the work that you do. So how to really instill some of that. We're excited for that. I am a daughter of a single mother and a family member full of essential workers. My mom works in the hospital. My brother's a police officer. So I know those who are coming into work every single day and putting in all the practices and making sure that we're still going every day. We're excited to be here. We're excited for you to see our workshops, to get to know us, to get to know me, and always know that we are available. Thank you. And now I'm going to pass it to my co-founder, my partner in crime, that's you, Rosa.
I'll keep it short. I definitely want you to know that you are in good hands, tell you a little bit about the experiences that we have so that you feel comfortable as we move on this journey together. I have 25 years of clinical experience. My focus has been children and adolescents. I've been designing mental health programs for the last 20 years. A lot of the programs, our mental health programs, are in different CPS schools. I've been happy to be a school counselor. Part of designing my programs, I wanted to be in the school community to assure that the programs that I was designing were being implemented and were working. So I was excited to be a part of that team and recognize how hard that all of you work every day to reach the families that we serve. 15 years as a gang and crisis responder. I was able to complete a 2-year capstone at Georgetown University School of Nonprofit that was for leaders of color serving communities of color. Really worked on organizational effectiveness, building up my competencies in fundraising and grant writing. A little bit about myself, I think that's important to know as well, as I'm also the daughter of immigrant parents. I am a former gang member and a trauma survivor. What makes me so excited about this partnership with Ingenuity is I'm also the recipient of after-school arts programs. And I really believe that it's what saved my life. I sang, I danced, and you know, I was sharing with Courtney and Nicole that I don't think any of my dance or choir instructors were trauma informed. And again, I'm not going to date myself, but this was over 30 years ago. But they had natural abilities to reach me and to be able to work with my body, to be able to be creative with art, really allowed me to express my own trauma and move beyond that and be able to be the person that I am today. So excited to be here with all of you and tell you a little bit about what we do. Before we jump into this though, Courtney and Nicole, I wanted to get to know everybody in this group. Nilsa and I have designed a really short poll, things that we find extremely important. Don't be afraid, these are not psychological exam. Nilsa and I, although we have a lot in common, we are extremely different.
Correct.
And very different personalities. So we got a couple questions for you there. Would you rather be too busy or too bored? I love to keep busy. I don't like to sit idle. And Nilsa,
I don't mind being bored. I don't mind hanging. I don't know if watching TV for 6 hours is boredom or self-care, but I like to just sit there and hang out. So that's me there.
Can't do dishes, hate dishes, but I'm okay with laundry. I love laundry, it's okay.
Before my 1-year-old, I used to do laundry once a month and I used to be proud of that. And now I do laundry at least every 3 days. So I'm gonna go with dishes. And I have a dishwasher, 1, 2, 3, and we're all set. So I'm a dishwasher.
Zoomer phone call. I'm that person who's going to Zoom you and pop up. I'm gonna Teams you. You may not have your hair done, but I love to connect. I love to see people. We live in this virtual world. So if I can't even see your face, I struggle. So I'm a Zoom girl.
Call me. I just told you I'm watching TV. You don't need to see me. Let's just have a phone call. If it's serious, definitely we could do a Zoom or crisis, but feel free to call me at any time.
I love to drive. I can't be the passenger. I'm going to be that passenger driver that's annoying and putting on the brakes. You ever see one of those who puts on the fake brakes? That's me. I need to drive.
I like being the passenger. My goal is, one of the things I do when I am the passenger is ask for permission. Can I use the radio? Can it be my playlist? Like, do we connect? Put my window down, put my window up. So I really like, people watching, so I prefer being the passenger.
Rich or loyal friend? I fought Nils on this. I like friends that are rich and loyal, if they exist. Rich or loyal friend, what'd you choose?
Wow, you just picked both. You just picked both. I think
you can't pick both. You got to make a choice, everybody.
I think I could do both. I could do both, but I am in need of rich friends. So if you know anyone that's, interested in my loyalty, please let me know, and I'm here for that.
I love cake. I got to have cake. Cookies are all right, but I'm a cake kind of girl, for sure.
Cookies, if it's a cake, it's a big cake and it's there for a few days, and then I feel like I got to eat it. A cookie is a one and done kind of thing, so I prefer cookies.
I want to be invisible. I want to be that fly on the wall. But flying sounds pretty cool. But here I chose being invisible.
I'd rather fly, knowing that I could be here in my house right now in an hour, maybe be in Puerto Rico because I flew my way over there. Sounds really amazing. So let me just fly my way without paying for an air flight.
All right, then finally, oceans and mountains. I will take the beach and the oceans any day of the week. I am definitely, I'm a Cancer by sign, so I'm a water sign.
I'm cool with both. But what we really want to know is, where is your polling? How do you guys agree with us? I'm curious who's going to drive to more. Nicole, can you share some of these polling answers for us?
Who are we dealing with? All right. So 70% want to be too busy. Thank you, those out there. We got laundry folks in the house. Some people that Zoom. My arts crowd. We like to connect, be together.
Oh, I see everyone preparing a cookie. I agree. And let's
loyalty over money. I love that. Loyalty over money. I love you guys for that. That speaks to all of you. Cookies. We got some cookie monsters out here. And then flying by far, Nils. You got flyers with you. A few of us want to be invisible.
You got people with you, Rosa. I see people who prefer the ocean. Thank you, everyone, for really getting to do these polls. We're really excited to meet you. And now we have a little bit of understanding of who you are. So we're hopeful to continue this relationship. What you're going to see here is just a list of some of the things that we do. At CGM Chicago with Mindset, we provide individual therapy. One of our goals is to really also not do this collaborative workplace, which Rosa will talk about, but also really focus on that one-on-one coaching, group therapy, family therapy, marriage, couples therapy, any those type of therapy we do provide. We understand that we are living through a pandemic and we're all going through this together. There's so much going on just with health scares and just with so many stuff. So know that not only are we here for this collaborative work, but you can also reach for any of your individual needs.
So our focus is working with individuals with high stress, but as I mentioned in the beginning, our goal is also to bring workplace services, just like what Ingenuity is doing. We do crisis and trauma response, and so that if your workplace has been affected by a trauma, that can look like a loss on your team, it can look like workplace violence. We are a crisis and trauma response team. Psychological capacity building workshops, we're excited to be bringing that to you. We have a large library of different workshops that we offer. Love to do team building and staff retreats. It's so important to make sure that we're taking care of each other and our teams. We do professional consultation and coaching, conflict resolution and mediation services. We do this, you're going to be working and getting a kind of a trauma lens assessment through the work that we do here. We also work with organizations to understand the mental health needs, the mental wellness needs of your organization, and then co-create integrated mental wellness programs into diverse work settings. It's a little bit about who we are and what we do. We look forward to this journey together. Thank you, Courtney and Nicole. We got to know them. That was finally. You want to be in touch, this is our business information. We're excited that our website is up and coming. You'll be getting that link soon. Our name says it all. We really believe that our mindsets really determine our behaviors with our relationships and our success and failure. And so we really want to help you maximize the investment that you make on yourselves. And we look forward to working with you all on this journey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. We look forward to it.
Thank you. Okay, so that was fun. Next, you're going to meet Eileen Ladson, Jocelyn Vega, and Candice Manciel from the Illinois Collaboration on Youth, and they're once again going to talk about some of the work that they do and what they're bringing to this project. So give it away.
Hi, Courtney. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Also, that was so much fun. Chicago Growth Mindset. I love that. I love all of that. So much fun. Thank you. So hi, everybody. My name is Eileen. I am a program director with Illinois Collaboration on Youth. A little bit about me. I'm originally a marriage and family therapist, so I like to tell people I'm a professionally trained systems thinker. And so I'm joined here by two of my colleagues, and so I'll let them introduce themselves as well. So I don't know, Candice, if you want to, or Jocelyn, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure, I can jump on in. So hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Candice Mansell. So I'm the trauma specialist for ICOY, specifically focused on the DHS contract. So what that means is most of my work, most of the training that I do, most of the technical assistance that I provide is for the youth serving programs that are funded through DHS throughout the state of Illinois, while I do some special projects on the side as well. So that's me.
And I'm Jocelyn. Candice and I work together as a dynamic duo as trauma specialists, but I specifically work with, individual community groups. That can be nonprofits, that can be coalitions. And as a trainer, I really prioritize, during the time where we're learning with each other, sharing information to create and have a safe environment. We're going to be talking about trauma, and it can be traumatizing. So really knowing that in these trainings, you are the most important resource. You're the most important part of this experience. And as trainers, we're going to honor that and respect your time because you can be doing tons of things, right? And we definitely want to keep you safe and supported when you're working with us. And I'm sure across our partners, they're going to be doing the same thing.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. So a little bit more about ICOY, just so you know who we are and kind of some of the background that we come from. ICOY was founded in the 1970s, and we've kind of evolved since then and changed a little bit, but our mission has really always stayed the same, which is to champion the safety, health, and success of Illinois' children, youth, and families by acting as a collective voice for policy, practice, and by connecting and strengthening organizations that serve them. So what does that really mean? At our core, we like to say that ICOY is a membership organization. So we represent about 101 youth-serving member organizations throughout the state of Illinois, everything from after-school network programs to foster care programs and everything in between. We also have a policy and advocacy team out of Springfield where we work to champion things like a Medicaid Technical Assistance Center, building trauma-informed school systems throughout the state, and supporting other trauma-informed initiatives as related to legislation. And then we also do a lot of capacity building and technical assistance work as well, which is where our work as a trauma team falls in. So about what we do as a team, I know that Candice and Jocelyn kind of talked about it a little bit. One thing is that we offer a series of trainings, and we're really excited to partner with Ingenuity, Illinois ACEs, and Chicago Growth Mindset to be able to give so many different trainings, and you'll be able to see the full kind of spread of all the trainings that we have as related to trauma, trauma-informed care, and not just what is trauma and how do we understand it, but things like talking about vicarious trauma, adding that kind of context that Bridget talked about before, or I'm sorry, Madison talked about before, where we talk about culture and trauma, and we look a little bit more at community trauma and what that looks like. And then we also do things like capacity building and technical assistance. So through projects like this, we're able to help actually expand the capacity of youth service providers and their service provider networks to be able to provide trauma-informed services to youth and care, as well as to be able to provide trauma-informed services to the staff as well. So as Jocelyn just mentioned, we believe that trauma-informed services aren't just about what is it that we can provide to the young people that we serve and support, but what is it that we can do to make sure that trauma-informed services also supports educators, staff, administrators, whoever it might be, because we recognize that trauma is really about a system of interactions as well. And then lastly, we also do a lot of technical assistance work where we provide examples and different resources to actually be able to provide and build on trauma-informed systems and what that looks like. So that's just kind of a roundabout way to talk about all the different things that we as a trauma team do and the work that we as ICOY do as well. So thank you so much, and we're excited to be a part of this initiative.
Thank you so much, Dawson, Eileen, and Candace. As you can see, we are working with an amazing group of practitioners on this project, and we're really looking forward to this program and the work that they're going to be contributing. So yes, all three of these organizations will be facilitating the sessions in part 1 of the training program. And then for part 2, joining us today, we have Marnie, Dr. Marnie Rosen from the Institute of Therapy Through the Arts. And Marnie's team will be facilitating all of the collective impact sessions for part 2. I'm going to hand it off now, and Marnie's going to fill you in a little bit more. Thank you.
Courtney. It's such a privilege to be part of this incredible team, and I'm just reminded as you guys were all going through your organizations, like what an incredible team we are together, and all the different things that we bring to this training and this collaboration. And so I am the practice director of the Institute for Therapy Through the Arts, and we are a nonprofit creative arts therapy center. So we provide exclusively creative arts therapy. So everyone at our center who is employed as a therapist is a credentialed creative arts therapist in one of the different art forms. So we were started in 1975, and we have developed and grown quite a bit. So we are an organization primarily in Evanston, but we have locations in Highland Park, and we are expanding to a Chicago location, hopefully in the next year. So we provide individual therapy, family therapy, group therapy, and all of these things on the one, in those moments of using the arts to work on the healing components. So a little bit about me and how I got into this work. I am an art therapist. I'm also a psychologist, and my interest in art really started for me in high school, where it was really impactful for my personal life and in my personal process, and reached this understanding for myself of what the arts can do for us as human beings and our communities, and how we can process through them. And when I started to think about my career choice and what I wanted to do, is I really wanted to harness that creativity, as so many of you do, so many of you on this call, to better the greater collective, the greater community, whether it be through arts education or arts therapy. The way that I have experienced it is, arts education is really kind of the first responders to all that is going on with using the arts in terms of how the healing works, because you're the ones with the young kids. You're the ones in the day-to-day classrooms, and we are harnessing it on our end, unfortunately, when things have occurred, and then the healing becomes therapeutic. But the healing is already there. So I would love to work with you, and the team that I will bring with us for these trainings all understands the arts themselves. We are all, as creative arts therapists, required to have education in our art form. So as an art therapist, I have education in art itself prior to the therapeutic components. So it's really helpful for us to be able to understand a bit about what that process actually means to create art, to be an artist, and then the psychological layers to that afterwards. So I have personally I have a master's degree in art therapy. I also have my doctorate in clinical psychology, and I specialize in post-traumatic stress disorder. So I did a 2-year postdoc at the Post-Traumatic Stress Center in New Haven, Connecticut. And I was part of a research study at Yale University, working with Holocaust survivors and their narratives. So I personally have done these trainings. Courtney, if you could, the next slide, please. I was invited by the Chicago Community Trust in 2018 to develop trauma-informed arts for arts educators. And I had the wonderful privilege with working with many Chicagoland arts education programs. And here's a few that I've worked with and some that have contracted with me separately to do this training. And my work and what I'm so excited about this project is continuing to develop it, to take the information of what you guys are experiencing as first responders, really in the classrooms with these kids, and helping us develop this curriculum of what this can look like as how do we interact with the art around trauma, and how does trauma come out through the arts? It's a little bit of both. And how do we help the teachers manage what's happening in the classroom? And how do we help the student manage what's coming out? Because that's also helping simultaneously. So this is a collaborative effort between all of these different components simultaneously, is both arts education, the arts pieces that you need to teach them, the psychological pieces that are coming out, and how do we handle those moments, those relationship pieces between you and the student, between the student and the school, the student and the community. And how do all of those things really intersect in those moments? So if you would go on to that, I'm going to explain a little bit further through some art. And I'm sure many of you have experienced this as arts educators, and wouldn't disagree with me about this, but a lot of times as an art therapist, we say a projection of ourself is in our art. And I should have made a little poll about this, but I'm sure if I did that, everyone who's an artist would say that a part of themselves is in their art in some capacity, whether that be the amount of time or effort that one spent to make the piece, or even a part of their personal narrative is there, right? So you could be standing in a classroom and a student is sharing a piece, and it could be as intense as this piece in front of me, and you don't know what it's about. They don't necessarily verbalize exactly what the art is about in that moment, but you know, as an arts educator, there's something in this piece. Something of themselves is here. You know, because we're all trained to see it and we can feel it, right? How do you handle in those moments, and I'm sure all of you have faced this in some way, the classroom's response, whether it be other students, your personal response, what's happening to you in that moment? You're seeing it, not sure what's happening. You're maybe some nervousness about what do I say? How do I help this student explain what's going on, but also protect them from potentially other students in the room who may not be as sensitive? Or if they want to showcase it, if it's an audience that they're showing this to, how do I create an environment that's safe for their emotional expression that's coming out? So these are the kinds of things that, beyond just the trauma education, which is a big part of what you're going to gain in this process and in this collaboration, but also it's in those moments, what works, what doesn't work, what are some guiding principles you can provide your educators for yourself, because we don't always know what the exact right thing to say is, but we have a group of professionals and a group of other educators that are coming together and talk about and really give some this is some guidance, so that way people who are new to this profession or an agency that's looking and growing in trauma-informed practices really have some basis for what they're approaching and how they're approaching things like an art critique or a personal expression that's coming out in the space. The next slide, okay. So sometimes also what happens is it's not just the personal responses that are coming out. Sometimes you actually get content. And so having done this training quite a bit with arts educators, you as arts educators will get information that then you have to hold and figure out what to do with. And all of a sudden a student is saying things and you're like, this is way above my training level. And this happens because you've created that relationship. The art is bringing it out. And this piece that I'm sharing with you was a student who shared a story about a sexual assault that happened in the auditorium at school. And here you are hearing about something that happens at school. And then what? What do you do next? What do you say? What do you do? What's the policies of the school? Did it just happen? Did it happen 5 years ago? And the raising of your mind, as well as that student's safety, emotionally, physically, because they might be having tears, anxiety, fear that it might happen again. Any of this thing it could have happened yesterday or could have happened 10 years ago for some of these students. So really gauging and creating a group that can come together in these workshops to really help and support each other, and continued support even following these trainings, because you're going to meet each other. You're going to work together on this guide. This guidebook is going to come from your thoughts and your experiences, shaped by those of us who are helping to write it. And future meetings could potentially come to continue to support how do we respond to these situations? Because this isn't the first student, and this will not be the last student. As much as I would love for trauma to stop, we are at a place where trauma is happening around us with what's happening in the world. So we need to find and use the arts, as we know, to help these kids process, to explore their own sense of creativities, to use it to help for healing, and help the educators, yourselves, facilitate that in a healthy ways for the kids and a healthy way for you and the organization and potentially the community. Thank you so much for allowing me to participate in this. I am super excited to meet with all of you and to really start this collaboration of really processing these moments and figuring out what the next steps are for you and for your teams.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marnie, for providing some examples of what partners can anticipate from these sessions. I think you illustrated it really well. Thank you. So hopefully you have a good understanding now of what this program is, who our collaborators are, and this essential process that we have ahead of us. But we'd like to open up the floor now for any questions that you might have for any of our collaborators today. And we have about 30 minutes for questions. So please use the Q&A tool to ask your questions, and please indicate who the question is for, if it is for someone specific. So we'll open up the floor now for any questions that you might have about the program, about the work that the individual practitioners do, about some of the sessions that they'll be providing.
Might get us started with a question here. And I guess this is for all of the teams, all 4 of the teams that we're working with. How are you thinking about working with each other? I know Courtney and I kind of put you all into a Zoom room and said, okay, let's go, let's make this happen. But what's the excitement for your individual organizations and you as individuals in working with this kind of collective of others in this field?
Nicole, if you don't mind, if I start, everybody, so excited to be a part of this partnership, meeting Eileen and working with ACES, Madison over at ACES, Eileen at ICOY, Marnie, in her program is such a unique opportunity to come together from different perspectives. And all of us have a passion for working with youth and families. All of us have a passion for wellness. And all of us have a passion for arts. And so I think it's a unique opportunity to come together to cross-collaborate. To answer your question very specifically, we have been meeting for a few months now on the regular. We have scheduled meetings that come together, pre and post trainings, to really understand the impact of those trainings, to understand how we can connect and collaborate and integrate our services so that it's seamless and it feels like you are receiving one service or one type of program. And so we work collaboratively together to be able to do that and make sure that we're communicating every step of the way. Eileen, Madison, Nilsa, anything you want to add?
I can add. So I think this goes back to actually, Nicole, maybe something that you said earlier about just all of us coming together and this work being like not taking on an expertise, but really having an opportunity to learn from each other. And that's one thing that I love about this group so far. And Rosa Julia, you talked about the meetings that we've had. I think each meeting that I've had with this team, I've walked away learning something new with a new perspective. And for me, this project isn't just about what is it that we can share? What are the trainings that we're doing? It's really about how do we come together to build something that has an opportunity to impact generations and generations and generations of young people. Because in the trauma-informed care work that I've done, we've never really like centered arts education and arts work in this way. But in my opinion, it's so incredibly important because, and I say this as a licensed marriage and family therapist, talk therapy is great, but you can only get so far. And when we think about the brain and how trauma works, we recognize that sometimes that part of your brain that's responsible for language isn't able to access what it needs to be able to talk through or process or share experiences. But you can do things like dance through it. And you can do things like create music, which is a whole other language, and movement, and drum to something, and paint. And Maria, I just think some of like the different photos that you shared were absolutely beautiful around that. So for me, this is really exciting because I'm hoping that this is the start of a really just a movement to really think about how do we do trauma-informed care services in a way that's non-traditional and really utilize all the different services that we have.
Oh, Madison, you muted?
Yeah.
There, now we can.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I just want to echo Eileen. So I am a clinical social worker, but I'm also, I have an MPH in public health. And, you know, as you have all seen on the news right now, we are in this, it's a huge conversation of how do we get information out there that people can connect with. And, you know, for us at the collaborative, and then just for me personally, knowing that in a lot of ways, how public health, how mental health talks about trauma hasn't gotten out to the people that need it the most. And we haven't done the greatest messaging. And so for me, that's one of the really exciting things about this is maybe we're not supposed to be handing out pamphlets. Maybe we're not supposed to be doing commercials. Maybe we're not supposed to be doing news articles. Maybe we're supposed to be putting on performances. Maybe we're supposed to be showing visual arts. Maybe we're, you know, having a dance around it, having a song about it. And I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about, is hearing from those of y'all who will be working with, but also from my fellow panelists here of how do we take all of this stuff that we know, but find new ways to get that information out there. So I'm really excited to see it be more than just like, here's a spreadsheet of numbers, which is how we operate in the public health world far too often. So
I just feel so privileged to be with all of you and to work with you, because not any one of our agencies has the capacity to do this in and of itself. And it's because we are all bringing all of this uniqueness and we can learn from each other that I feel like that's where the healing for our communities is going to happen, is because this issue is so broad and it impacts so many areas: education, arts, healthcare. I mean, it is a huge ripple that the only way to do this is to start bringing people together to collaborate. And I think that I feel that with all of you, that we're all bringing different experiences, all the arts organizations, to also all the different areas of the Chicagoland area, because we don't practice in all of them, need to come together to share resources. And hopefully nationally, as we continue to grow this project, that this message can grow further.
I think it's it is a real model, right? And I can't tell you the amount of times that Courtney and I get emails or inquiries about who can help us with trauma at our organization. And, you know, that's a really tough question to answer, right? Because of what you just expressed. This looks so different by community and by discipline, which is part of our excitement in bringing this group together was, you know, I don't think one organization, while each organization brings something super important and unique to the table, not one of us can do it alone, right? And so, you know, I think Ingenuity sits at this interesting place of being able to convene multiple voices and bring us together around the same table to say, here's what our communities are are interested in learning about. Here's what they're experiencing. And I think, again, this perspective of both what happens from a curricular perspective and kind of an instructional perspective, but also how do we just become better at trauma-informed practice as human beings in our own organizations? How often do we think about the fact that maybe one of our colleagues is suffering with an illness with a direct loved one, and what impact does that have on them when they come into work every day? And so we have so many opportunities to learn. I think this is just the tip of a very, very deep iceberg, but something I know that we are just so excited to explore. Courtney, it looks like we've got a question here from the audience on the sessions, and you want to address that?
Yeah, so for the question is, will there be recordings of future sessions available in case we're not available during some of the times that they're being provided? And the answer to that question is yes. All of the sessions will be recorded, and then they'll be included in that final guidebook toolkit that we were talking about and incorporated there. So yes, you'll be able to access them.
And we'll usually come on just a little bit of a delay, just so that we kind of clean them up a little bit and make them pretty. They might not be available immediately, but probably within a couple of weeks after the live date, the videos will be made available on our YouTube page. Other questions? Do our panelists have any questions for the participants?
Or each other.
Or each other.
A question for the panelists or for audience members, but really, I don't want to speak for the whole group, but please come with your questions. Please come with scenarios that you want to work and talk through. These are your training sessions. This is your time, and keep us accountable, right? As your trainers, as the people who are partnering with your communities, with the ongoing work that you are doing, that is our responsibility to be accountable to your questions, to situations. So please come with that energy, come with even the confusion, right? Of where do I start or how do I continue? Because that is our role. And this is a service, right? This is a responsibility. So I don't want to speak for everyone, but I know from previous meetings that we come with that mindset. And I just want to be inviting when you're attending our webinars that really come with your full self and your full questions.
Excellent. I know I'll have a lot of questions. Any other, Rosa Julia?
I just wanted to piggyback on what Jocelyn was speaking about. We're going to lean on you to be experts because you know the students and the families that you serve, and we're ready to meet you where you're at. And we understand that everybody is starting in a different place. Some of you, this might be, you've gone to a variety of trauma-informed workshops. Maybe you've done assessments. Maybe you've been in therapy. Maybe this is something that you've been working on, or maybe this is the first year after seeing kind of what our country's been going through that you've decided this needs to be a priority and that you've done pretty good, but now you need to up the ante a little bit and you need to bring in reinforcements. I say that because I think every organization needs reinforcements, but also on a personal level. I've really been pushing for everybody. We need personal reinforcements because things are just extra stressful. I like to joke that we're going through a Jumanji 2020 year and every week is the next level that we make it through. But it also just speaks to the importance of mental wellness. So wherever you're at, we're ready to meet you there. So like what Jocelyn was saying, be open, be transparent, and we'll meet you where you're at.
Okay. Yeah, well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions at the moment, but that's okay. If you have questions, you can reach out to Nicole or myself, any of the practitioners. I'll follow up with slide decks and contact information, and you'll have all of the upcoming sessions. And like everyone was saying, come prepared with your questions and help guide the experience. But that, I think, concludes today's introduction. Thank you to all of our collaborators for participating and being a part of this work. I think it's going to be a really transformative opportunity for the sector. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone out there for joining us today. We really hope to see you at the upcoming trainings. Nicole and I are basically putting the majority of our resources into these trainings this year. So your presence at these sessions will ensure that we can provide programs like this in the future. So we really hope to see you there. Visit that webpage and register for those first upcoming 101 sessions. We'll be in touch really, really soon with additional information about how you can register for the next set of sessions. And yeah, thank you for taking this journey with us, and we hope to see you really, really soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.